All right, Nuggets fans, welcome in to Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by good friends here at Mile High Sports and FanDuel. I am your host, Ryan Blackburn, at NBA Blackburn on Twitter, part of the Mile High Sports Podcast Network, and I am here. I am ready to discuss the Denver Nuggets and who had a win over the Phoenix Suns, on this weekend, and was pretty impressed with the way that they handled themselves, pretty impressed with the way that we've seen the star players trend, and Cam Johnson really standing out and doing some great things. We're going to talk about it all. We're going to talk about Jamal Murray making a promise and delivering on it. We are going to talk about the Nuggets' upcoming week, which should, I think, be very interesting to see just how focused and locked in they are following a really impressive win in Phoenix. But first, let's talk about that win. Let's talk about what happened here for Denver. Denver wins 130-112 on the second night of a back-to-back against Phoenix on Saturday night. I did a podcast that morning, talked about I didn't really know how Denver was going to approach that game. We'll see what ultimately happens, but Denver coming off of a hard-fought game, Phoenix coming off of a hard-fought game. What I did say was that Phoenix wasn't in an advantage situation, despite the fact that Denver is traveling on the second night of a back-to-back, because Phoenix was doing exactly the same thing. So Phoenix comes out and they hit pretty hard, but ultimately Denver survived that punch initially and won every quarter except the second quarter by 2 points. It was an impressive game, and Denver, especially in the second half, they won the third quarter by 8, won the fourth quarter by 7, just separated a little bit during that game. And it gave them some confidence, I think, gave them some validation, some validation on the things that they had been doing over the course of these last few weeks. And it's also just kind of an interesting habit to get into that Denver hasn't lost 2 games in a row yet. They haven't lost 2 games in a row. And every time they lose, they have rattled off at least a win or 2 here or there, knowing that like they're in a pretty good place from a process standpoint. They get back to that process if they lose, and that's a great sign. That's a great sign for a team that knows what they're trying to accomplish, that is doing a lot of these impressive things, and is still on a 60-win pace heading into this portion of the season. They're almost a quarter of the way through. I've described it as thus: that Denver is now into the second portion of their season. There's a lot of different portions that you kind of get into. The first one was make a good first impression, start things off the right way. Second part of the season is survival. It's survival without Christian Brown, without Aaron Gordon. I'm sure that there will be other injuries that pop up. Julian Strawther, a surprising injury that like Denver just hasn't had the luxury to be able to go to him over the past 7 or 8 games because he's been out the entire time. Super underrated in terms of what that does to the rotation, because Denver's had other guys that step up in that spot. Namely, Tim Hardaway Jr. has been really great. But just overall, like if I told you that Denver was 14-5 heading into the 20th game of the season tonight against Dallas, like you'd probably feel pretty good about that. You'd probably assume, okay, yeah, there are a couple of games that they lost here or there, but it was probably the tough ones, right? Well, for Denver, it's kind of been the easy ones. It's been actually pretty fascinating to see the breakdown of the games that they've lost. The last 3 games in a row that they've lost have been the easy ones, the back-to-back not back-to-back, Chicago's back-to-back in Denver. And then you had the Sacramento game, which was on the second night of a back-to-back for Denver, but that was after a really impressive win in Houston. And then Denver loses the front end of the back-to-back against San Antonio after a few days off. But then they turn around and they win the tough game against Phoenix. So credit to them for stepping up. And they have shown up in these situations where you want to see what their team can do, what the group can do from a toughness standpoint. I've never really questioned the toughness of the Nuggets. It's actually been one of the things that, like, of Jokic, of Murray, of all of these guys and the culture that they have established. They're really good on the second night of back-to-backs, or at least have been for a long time. They lost the first couple, or actually not the first couple. I think they actually won their first couple of back-to-backs initially in the season. But losing the one against Sacramento, it is what it is. But you bounce back and you win the one against Phoenix, who's a good team. Like, I was pretty impressed with the way that they were approaching it. They were obviously without their own starting center in that game. They started Oso Ighodaro instead of Mark Williams. And Mark Williams is just a different beast in terms of what you have to deal with as an opposition. But credit to Denver. They stepped up. Jokic was amazing in this one. Murray was very good. I wouldn't say amazing, but like each of those guys had 5 turnovers. Didn't matter. Like they calmed down after the various miscues from the offense and from them, and then ultimately turned it into something really impressive. Spencer Jones, 16 points, career high, 6 of 10 from the field, 4 of 6 from 3, 9 rebounds, including 4 offensive. He's doing all the hustle things that you'd want him to do. Peyton Watson, I haven't talked about Peyton's contributions from that game that much. He's one of the primary reasons why Devin Booker went 5 of 11 from the field and 0 of 4 from 3. Yes, Devin Booker went 14 of 15 from the free throw line, but that was a different story. I saw a lot of Sun fans complaining about Jokic from the free throw line drawing perspective, but yes, Devin Booker attempted 4 more free throws in the game, and yes, he was also throwing his head back and yelling at the sky and trying to get the officials to make those calls. I was impressed with Dylan Brooks from Phoenix. I thought he did a lot of good, impressive things. Coming off of the bench, Colin Gillespie started the game really well, but he slowed down, and Denver was able to get that under wraps. Tim Hardaway Jr. off of Denver's bench was tremendous, and he was the one who kind of carried it through. 17 points in the first half, 6 in the second half, but Bruce Brown was one of the main guys who stepped up in the second half with 6 fourth-quarter assists. That's pretty impressive. That's some good numbers from Denver. A lot of good contributions from a lot of different guys. And that's what you want. You want a bunch of different people to step up as best as they can. It can't just be on Jokic and Murray. Like, you have to share the burden. And I thought that they absolutely did that. So credit to the Nuggets for doing everything that they said that they were going to do and kind of putting what was a bad loss against San Antonio behind them and kind of going through the process once again and winning a pretty important game. Wanted to chat a little bit about Cam Johnson at the end of this first segment before we go into Jamal Murray in the second segment. Cam Johnson has taken a lot of flack from a lot of different people. It hasn't been perfect by any stretch of the word, but I do think that Cam Johnson, as I wrote today on milehighsports.com, he is progressing in the right direction for Denver. This was a quote that he shared on Friday night after the Nuggets loss, where he still had 28. He was still very good. He says, quote, "Everybody knows it's a rhythm thing. I tell you guys all the time. Sometimes they go in, sometimes they don't. I told you guys when I was missing them. I'll tell you when I was making them. But yeah, it does feel good to see them go down and kind of get that rhythm. The feel is getting better." And it makes a lot of sense, right? Like, Denver's offense is very much a feel-based offense. It's an understanding that you have to go through Jokic, you're going to go through Murray, you're going to go through these guys on a consistent basis, and then everybody around that group is mostly orbiting. And there's a dance that Jokic puts on throughout these games where, depending on the coverage, depending on the personnel, depending on who is out there with him, it always feels like Jokic is operating at a very high level from a processing standpoint, and you better get there too, or else he's going to be frustrated, or else things are going to go wrong. Or he's just going to stop passing at that point and just try to blunder through the defense and probably make some off-balance 10-footer, because that's what he's capable of. But in order to operate and conduct the symphony at the highest level, everybody has to be on tune. And Cam Johnson is still figuring that out. But I do think that, like, you see the production, you see the efficiency that has really transformed over the course of these last few weeks. The date that I want to talk about is November 17th, where he misses a game. Cam Johnson does on, I believe, November 15th due to an injury, shoulder injury against the Minnesota Timberwolves. It was one that he suffered in the Clippers game on November 12th. And so they go to Minnesota. He rests that day, but then he comes back. And ever since then, in the last 7 games, Cam Johnson has shot 50% from 3 in 6 of the 7. Like individually, he's been very efficient in each of those games. Overall, he's 23 of 38 from 3, 60.5% from 3 during that stretch, which is by far the highest in the entire NBA among all players to attempt at least 23s. Like, it's been really impressive. It's been a really impressive shooting display from Cam Johnson. Most of the time, he's just taking the easy ones. Most of the time, he's moving, he is relocating, he is getting to a place where he's comfortable getting open. It's in the left corner, it's in the right corner, it's off of the wing, but there's also plenty of times where he's just rising and firing and playing with some confidence. What's actually funny is that with Jokic on the floor, he's at like 47% from 3. With Jokic off the floor, he's only at 22%. He's actually been super low from that perspective. And I do think that there's just a lot of room for growth even still, like in those non-Jokic minutes for him to be better. It's not like he's getting worse threes during that stretch for the most part. I wouldn't expect him to be that much better, but like playing off of Jonas Valanciunas and Bruce Brown and Jamal Murray sometimes and taking advantage of Tim Hardaway's spacing, like he has found a bit of rhythm. But even without the three-point shooting in the non-Jokic minutes, he's been doing some really good things with that second unit. That unit's actually been very positive. Matt shared last night on the show for Locked On that Cam Johnson without Nikola Jokic in those non-Jokic minutes this year, it's been like plus 26 net rating. Like that's tremendous. That's insane. That's absolutely insane. It's good to see. Everybody had a lot of things to say about Cam struggling, about him trying to integrate himself into the Nuggets offense. With Michael Porter, it was always a simpler equation for what Mike was going to do and what he couldn't do. Mike wasn't the most, I'll say this in the kindest way, he was not the most cerebral player. And as a result, the Nuggets were not running things for Mike that were super complicated. It simplified the process for him. It allowed him to just be himself, to shoot the ball, to be very confident that when he was going to get the ball, most of the time it was going up. That was his job. That was his role with Denver. As it turns out, Mike had more to give from an offensive process standpoint, and he's shown that in Brooklyn so far. He's hurt right now, but he's shown that in Brooklyn, and I'm happy for him. Like he deserved to be able to spread the wings a little bit and show that he was capable of more than just the bit role that the Nuggets had played him in. But what he had done in Denver was very simple process. If he is open, he's going to shoot. If he is open, he's going to drive. If he's open, he's going to have those opportunities. And it wasn't a lot of nuance. With Cam Johnson, they are really trying to integrate him into a nuanced game plan. They're running more pick and roll and DHO with him. They're keeping him involved in the offense. His usage is not very high. I do want to continue to see his usage rate get higher, not from the perspective of him just forcing shots, but just him finding those opportunities a little bit more naturally within the flow. But it may not happen. And while the Nuggets have Jokic and Murray and Tim Hardaway shooting the way that he is, and there's a lot of other guys, like Peyton Watson's been great. And when Aaron Gordon comes back, Christian Brown comes back, those guys will also be great. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if Cam Johnson's usage is just overall way lower than we would have expected. He's only averaging 11 points per game so far this season. Now, that's way higher than it was at the beginning of the year, but it does feel like there's still even more room for growth from a volume standpoint. Now, people don't really fully appreciate this. With Jokic and Murray playing the way that they're playing, like Jokic is averaging, 30 points per game? Murray's averaging 24. Like, that's 54 points right there. you're running out of points, man. You're just running out of opportunities to be able to create points for other people with those two playing at the level that they are. And so Cam is augmenting that. He's not going to step on anybody's toes. I think if people want Jokic to keep averaging like a 30-point triple-double and they want Murray to play at an all-star level, then somebody's going to have to sacrifice and somebody's not going to get as many shots. And so with Cam Johnson, that might be him. I do think that there is still room for growth. I think he could get up to 15 points per game by the end of the year. But you think about where that is right now. He's played, 18 games? I think he's missed one, maybe two. He's played 18 games. He's averaged 11 there. That means for the next 18, he has to average like 20. He has to average like 21. And he might be able to do that. He might be capable of that. But it is a different kind of setup. So I don't know. We'll see where it goes from here, what Cam is going to be able to average, what he's not going to be able to average. I do think that it's not all about the points per game. His playmaking is just better than Mike's. His ability to see the floor, his ability to guard has been really impressive too. He's just playing at a high level from a defensive standpoint, executing what the Nuggets are trying to do. And while Denver's defense itself has not been very good, I do not think it's Cam Johnson's fault. I sort of refuse to believe that it's Cam Johnson's fault with what I've watched. So lots of good can come from this. And I do think that as Denver has progressed, as they have shown a little bit more from week to week, Cam Johnson's shown a little bit more from week to week and taken some steps forward, some important things that he's been able to do. I'm excited to see where it goes from here. What he's like, is he going to keep being the main stagger guy without Jokic and Murray? Is he going to be like his usage without those guys when they're on the floor? It jumps to 18.8% without Jokic on the floor. It could probably go even higher than that, if I'm being honest. So there's still ways that he could continue to grow. And I'm looking forward to seeing what he does, how he handles it. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we are going to discuss Jamal Murray delivering on his promise, as well as previewing the week for this upcoming game tonight, and then a 3-game road trip. We'll talk about it next year on Pickaxe and Roll. This podcast is brought to you by Delete Me. Delete Me makes it easy, quick, and safe to remove your personal data online at a time when surveillance and data breaches are common enough to make everyone feel vulnerable. Data brokers, they profit off of your data. It's a commodity. Anyone on the web can buy your private details. This can lead to identity theft, phishing attempts, and harassment. Have you ever been the victim of identity theft, harassment, doxing? If you haven't, you probably know someone who has. Delete Me can help. Take control of your data and keep your private life private by signing up for Delete Me. Now at a special discount for our listeners. Get 20% off your Delete Me plan when you go to deleteme.com/hit and use promo code HIT at checkout. The only way to get 20% off is to go to joindeleteme.com/HIT and enter code HIT at checkout. That's joindeleteme.com/HIT, code HIT. All right, we are back. Pickaxe and Roll, Ryan Blackburn here. Thank you so much for tuning into the show, folks. Hit that like button if you can. Hit that subscribe button. Would really, really appreciate it if you have enjoyed the show so far. If you continue to enjoy the content that we put out here at Mile High Sports, let us know. Let me know down in the comments what you'd like to continue to see as well. Would always appreciate the constructiveness of that. Okay, I'm going to pull up some things here, but I'm also going to pull up something on the screen here. I like this tweet from Katie Wingy. Shout out to Katie Wingy, who's the absolute best and an absolute joy to be around as well. Katie tweeted, remember when Jamal Murray said he was focused on having a good November? 35.9 minutes per game, 23.2 points per game, 47.3 field goal percentage, 4.5 rebounds, 7.1 assists, all career highs for the month of November. It's the first time he's appeared in at least 18 games before December 1st since 2018, 2019. That to me is super interesting. It's super fascinating. I like the breakdown there. I thought that was a I thought that was an important note that like not only has he stepped up in just from a scoring perspective, like there's been times where he could have sat on the second night of back-to-backs where you would expect him, given the injury history and given what he's dealt with, to sit, to rest, to get out of the way, to just take care of his body, focus on the long haul. To be honest, I still probably think that he should do that. I still think that there's growth and importance there to be able to step up in that regard, to kind of take a load off and say, okay, I need to be the best version of myself, not just in October and November, but also in April and May. But like, hard to really complain when he's doing exactly what you wanted him to do, right? Like this is what people were expecting. On the year, Jamal's averaging, I believe, about 24 points per game. And that's about all you can really expect. Like I keep trying to implore people about this. With Jokic getting the opportunities that he gets, with him dominating the ball on a consistent basis, there are very few fewer opportunities for everybody around him. Like that's what happens when you lead the NBA in touches. I know he shares out the ball. I know that that's what Jokic wants to do. But a lot of the time, the best play for the Nuggets is for Jokic to be aggressive and to look at the basket. So that's what he does. And Murray has found a way around that to be like, I mean, I'm looking at the numbers here. They are really impressive. Like 24 points per game on the season, 6.6 assists, 48.6% from the field, 40.9% from three, 89% from the line. The free throw percentage has actually dropped. Jamal's got to figure that one out. But like, he's just been really impressive, and turnovers have been up just a touch, but it's not like so out of line with where he's usually at. Like usually he averages around 2 to 2.3. He's at 2.4. So that's the next step, I think, for him to just get those back into a more comfortable place. But that's what happens when you add a little bit more playmaking, you added a little bit more responsibility with the ball in your hands, and that's how things have gone. So I'm pretty impressed. Like this is a career high in true shooting for him at this point in 61.1%. This is a borderline career high in player efficiency rating. It's not a career high in box plus minus. That was actually 2023-24. I think that one was a little bit different because he had so much responsibility with that second unit offense that I just think there's a little bit more growth that he had then from a stats and a scoring standpoint than he would have now. But it just has been exactly what he said he would do, right? Like that's what you're trying to say. Like he said he was just wanted to have a great October and November, was really focused on getting off to a good start, that he had heard a lot of the noise, that this was something that had been a very important piece of where he was at. I need to put out a graphic, and I should definitely do this. So look out for this on social media later today. October, November, Jamal Murray points per 100 possessions and true shooting percentage through the first, through October and November, just showing where he's at from from an early season standpoint, because usually like the numbers have suggested in the past, it's way lower. It is just way less productive. He's way less efficient, and he's brought that better energy and better focus and better just execution to the beginning of the season. And it's one of the biggest reasons why Denver's 14-5. Like they're not perfect. The Lakers are now, they have overtaken them for a top 3 seed. I think that Houston is also back ahead of them in the standings, if I'm not mistaken. That's what one loss, like literally one loss, will do to you in the standings. OKC's 20-1. The Lakers are 15-4. The Rockets are 13-4, and Denver's 14-5. So quite literally, it is what one loss will do. But I do think that Denver has done what they've set out to do to get off to a good start. They're on pace for 60 wins. Jokic is a big reason for that. Murray's a big reason for that. Cam Johnson's improving. And there have been a lot of guys, namely Tim Hardaway Jr. and Jonas Valanciunas off the bench, that have helped really deliver on that. But the biggest swing factor was Murray. He was the biggest one to, I think, take what was a possible weakness for Denver and go and make it way better. Make it and put it into a situation where Denver now has a strength when Jokic is on the bench, or like what Denver has been doing lately. Cam Johnson's been staggering with the bench and having a really good time with it. The Nuggets have been pretty good with that. Jokic and Murray get to play together for more of these opportunities. And like Jokic has so much pressure on him consistently when Denver goes to the non-point guard lineups. Like when Bruce Brown is in there, when it's Tim Hardaway and like Peyton Watson and Spencer Jones and guys like that. When you need him to do a lot of the self-creation, there's a lot of pressure. So having somebody like Jamal Murray out there to just consistently being a dribble threat really helps. It just really helps. Cody says he's been a 3-level scorer consistently. Totally agree. The mid-range shooting has been amazing for him this year. He's actually extremely efficient on that end. And like, I know people are not necessarily going to love 3-point shooting in general, but I think that that's been one of the big standouts. It's one of the big reasons why he's been able to do what he's doing. But also it's just from an outside shooting perspective. Like he has been super aggressive in all areas. I'm going to go to Cleaning the Glass and look up the shooting accuracy for all of these guys and try to filter out based off of how many minutes and the position that he is playing. He's playing point. And yeah, let's see. Mid-range. Yeah, Jamal Murray currently is in the 73rd percentile in mid-range efficiency. He's right in between Jalen Brunson, Cole Anthony, Cade Cunningham. He's above De'Aaron Fox. He's above Trae Young, who got injured early in the year. Tyrese Maxey, for example. But 3-point efficiency, this is a big one. Like 80th percentile. 40% from 3 is a big deal, especially for somebody like him who is initiating a lot of offense, but he has taken on a lot of that and been extremely efficient with it. He's in line with Darius Garland and Josh Giddey, who like Josh Giddey might be an all-star this year. Although if Josh Giddey takes Jamal Murray's all-star spot, that'll be very frustrating. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is at 42%. He's shot really well to start this season. He's probably the leader in the clubhouse from an efficiency standpoint at point guard. Like Murray's above Steph Curry. He's above James Harden. He's above Tyrese Maxey, Jalen Brunson, De'Aaron Fox. I'm looking at all these names. He's more efficient than all of them right now. And it's also from a volume standpoint. Like this is the first time in his career where he's attempted, I believe, at least 7 threes a game. And that is to be extremely notable. Being aggressive and consistently looking for his own offense, it helps other people because so many of these players, like for Denver, they're working off of the Jokic actions. They're working off of those things. When Murray is also being extremely aggressive, it helps everybody else. Like 7.3 3-point attempts per game, 40.9% from 3. Like this is his best shooting season so far. He's got a career high in EFG. He's got a career high in, not a career high in free throw percentage. He had a year, his second season, where he was at 90.5%. That's pretty impressive. But points, assists, rebounds per, like even rebounds per game, he's at 4.5. Like it's been very good. Now he's up to 35.3 minutes per game. And last year he was at 36.1. This is the second career high, actually not second career high. The year he tore his ACL was actually the second career high for minutes. I think that there's been a lot of people that have wanted to know whether Denver could add a backup point guard. If there's an argument for Denver to add a backup point guard, it's not for what they need from a playmaking standpoint or anything like that. It's just to keep Murray's minutes down at least a little bit more. And like That's a higher number. So who knows? Maybe Jalen Pickett could get involved. Maybe Bruce Brown, with the playmaking that he just had, maybe there's an opportunity for him to play a little bit more there as a leading ball handler, and they could rest Murray at least a little bit later in these games. It's been a while since Denver's been able to rest Murray early and take him off the floor. So finding more of those games where he plays only 30 minutes, 28 minutes, 26 minutes would be really nice, just to kind of balance out what he's been doing on a consistent basis. But no, I've been really impressed. Been really impressed with what he's done. He's done exactly what he set out to do. And when somebody does that, you give them credit for it. You make sure that they know that like this was the right thing. Like that the effort that they have put in, that Murray clearly put in during the offseason, during the preseason, just to make sure that he and the Nuggets were ready. That was clearly an emphasis and clearly realized. So credit to him and credit to the Nuggets for helping to put him in that position where he could be successful. So good stuff. All right. Final thing here as we talk about the upcoming schedule. I think that, oh God, we are not doing this. I think that this is going to be a very interesting week for Denver. You've got Dallas tonight. Denver's facing off against a Dallas team with Cooper Flagg and Anthony Davis. Cooper Flagg just came off of a 35-point game. Anthony Davis is still Anthony Davis. He's still somebody that is very dangerous. He might not necessarily be amazing, but like this is a really tough defense that the Nuggets are about to face. I'm pretty sure at least according to Cleaning the Glass, the Mavericks are a really great defensive team. They are 6th in the NBA in defense, but they are 30th, like dead last in offensive rating. And this will be an interesting test for Denver. I know that Anthony Davis has missed a lot of that time. He'll help make the offense better. But if he's playing power forward on a consistent basis, what does that do for Denver? Is Spencer Jones guarding him? Because usually Aaron Gordon would be the ideal person in that circumstance, in that situation. Is Zeke Naji guarding him? Is Peyton Watson guarding him? He's going to draw a lot of free throws. And that, to me, I think is the big concern here, that for a team like Dallas, that the rest of their offensive process is not going to be awesome, at least if you can help it, if you can do the right things, like stay close to Klay Thompson. Don't allow Cooper Flagg to just drive right to the rim, and then you'll be okay. If you can avoid those things, then you should be able to hold Dallas to a pretty low number from a defensive standpoint. And then you can really focus on scoring on the other end. And I just don't think that Denver's going to have as much of an issue scoring. Although, like, Anthony Davis will probably be guarding Spencer Jones while he's out there, daring him to shoot, and it'll be up to Spencer Jones to make him pay. This is one where wouldn't surprise me if Spencer Jones gets a lot of shots from three, and he will have to prove that he can make them again. That's the thing about being a starter in the NBA, is that every single night you are tested. So it'll be interesting to see how Denver handles it, but that's just one of the games. And then Denver has actually, we'll focus on that game tonight as I look up on FanDuel, that you can make sure to take a look at that. The Nuggets are currently on FanDuel 11-point favorites. They have a money line of minus 590. The over-under is 234. I think I would take the under on that personally. I know that I've been saying take the over a lot, but I don't think that this is a game where the offenses are going to shine. Denver's offense, this is one where I think that they could really, not really struggle, but like they only put up 116 as opposed to 130 is the kind of struggle that they're getting into. Let's look. Murray's plus 102 to get to 25 points. Not sure who would be guarding him on the ball in this situation. Is it Max Christie? Is it Cooper Flagg? Like who would be the main person to kind of take that assignment on? Anthony Davis is minus 111 to get 20 points, That one feels pretty safe. And then Cam Johnson still plus 310 to get 20 points. That's a crazy number. 2 made threes. Can you get a Spencer Jones prop? No Spencer Jones props for Denver, although Peyton Watson is plus 162 and Cooper Flagg is plus 200. It wouldn't surprise me if both of those hit. So we'll see how that goes, but make sure to check out FanDuel and get these odds for yourself. Then we have in the schedule Indiana, Atlanta, Charlotte as 3 road games that Denver's going to be playing in a row. They've actually added a 4th road game to that. Sacramento, they have to go back to Sacramento, it's one of the games that we talked about previously when the results of the schedule from NBA group play happened. Sacramento is one of the games that they have, and then Houston is another game. But they play Sacramento 4 days after this road trip, so they'll come back home, they'll rest, they'll recuperate, and then they'll go back on the road. And then after that, fortunately, they've got a 4-game homestand, so that will really help them settle down. So after they have this upcoming road trip, they'll be at home for a little bit here, which is good. But the first one that they go to is Wednesday at Indiana. Then they, on Friday, go to Atlanta. Then on Sunday, they'll go to Charlotte. And all 3 of those games, I think, are losable. Indiana's one where you're going to be interested. They've won 4 games. You're going to be interested to see how much Jokic can get involved like he did in the previous Indiana matchup. Denver was on the second night of a back-to-back in that game. They ultimately won it, and Jokic was very productive in that game. 32 points, 14 rebounds, 14 assists. He did have 8 turnovers in that game because Indiana is a very focused team on turning you over. Cam Johnson was okay in that game. Peyton Watson was pretty good in that game. Christian Brown was not good in that game overall. And then Jalen Pickett started that game, didn't really play that well. So we'll be curious to see what Jamal Murray can do in that place. And then if Spencer Jones can replicate what Christian Brown was doing. I think that on this week, Denver's probably going to go. It's either 2-2 or 3-1. They're not going to go 4-0. I talked about the possibility of going 4-0 last night with Matt. I don't think that's going to happen. I think that Denver's probably going to have to take their time, and this process is not going to be perfect, especially without Christian Brown, Aaron Gordon. You just have a couple fewer rotation players, a couple fewer guys that play 30-plus minutes a night, and there's going to be some weaknesses that emerge. What those weaknesses are at this stage, I don't know. But what I do know is that Denver is capable of going 4-0. And so I don't know which one of those games that they lose. They'll probably lose the Atlanta game. But you asked me to predict which of the other ones that they lose, and I'm just not sure. So I think they go 3-1. It wouldn't surprise me if they go 2-2. They're capable of going 4-0. If they go anything less than 2-2, then you can start to hit the panic button. This Dallas game is a trap game for sure because it's another game where they just come back home and then go back out on the road. So we'll see how they handle it, what they can do with it. Very curious to see how that goes. Okay, folks, that is going to do it for this episode of Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by our good friends here at Mile High Sports and FanDuel. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button on the way out. I'll see you guys tomorrow. We'll recap the Dallas Mavericks game. And then on Thursday, we will talk about Denver's first road game. Everybody have a great week. Be good. I'll talk to you guys very soon.